The confetti hadn't even settled before people started asking if they could do it again. And that's why in today's conversation, I want to talk to you about what it means to honor the summit. I was at the men's college basketball Final Four semifinal game in Indianapolis, Indiana, Lucas Oil Stadium. And the energy in that arena was electric. It was electric. Every possession felt heavy. Every run felt like momentum was shifting history. My voice is still recovering from cheering all night as the University of Michigan won their game. Now, I really wanted to go to the championship game. I really, really, really wanted to go to the championship game. But I didn't make it. I missed that final moment. I didn't watch it from my couch as my friends were still in Indianapolis watching the game inside of the stadium. It wasn't quite the same, but I cheered. I cheered as best as I could from my couch and still recovering from losing my voice from cheering during the Final Four. And just watching the team, watching the history being made, seeing old players hang out and be a part of the experience. It was just one of those moments that you're not going to forget anytime soon, of seeing your team that you've cheered for a long time make it. But the day after Michigan won it all, something hit me. And before the team really had time to celebrate, before it actually settled in, people were already asking, can they do it again next year? Can head coach Dusty May put together a team, especially considering that the Final Four in 2027 will be in Detroit? It's almost like home court advantage for the University of Michigan if they were able to make it. Can they do it again? Can they make it to the Final Four and win the championship in 2027? That question stayed with me because this is what happens. We start to think about what is showing up next. We have these experiences where we barely reach the summit sometimes, or we're just on the other side of the victory or the success or lifting the trophy, and the world is pointing. The world is asking, are you ready for the next mountain? Can you repeat it? Was it a fluke? Can you top it? Can you prove that it wasn't luck? And it's not just sports, because you know this leadership tension. The team hits a milestone, a leader gets promoted, a department finally stabilizes, and almost immediately, someone poses the question, hey, what's next? Now, you know that tension because you have been there in the climb. You recognize what it took to actually get to the mountain, the late nights, the hard conversations, the real sacrifice, and finally you reach the summit. And maybe for you, it's a deal that closes finally. Maybe for you, it's the recovery of the team after a restructuring. Maybe it's the culture healing after some major fallout. And you want to get into the place where you're celebrating this success. But before you can even breathe, or before you can even soak it all in, someone, sometimes a well-meaning someone, points ahead and says, look at what's next, and climb again and again and again. Now, performance culture trains us to move fast, sometimes too fast, and success at moments barely gets a breath. And here's what concerns me. Sometimes as leaders, we're so focused on the next climb that we don't take the time to turn around and look at how far we've actually come. And when you skip that reflection in a winning moment, in a winning moment, when you skip the reflection, in a winning moment, when you refuse to look back, you actually lose. You lose. You lose perspective. You lose insight. You lose gratitude. You lose what the success is actually trying to teach you in that moment, because success teaches too, not just failure. We can learn from our successes. Now, before you race to look ahead, you got to spend some time. You got to look back. It's actually critical to your future success that you look back. Now, let me be clear. There's no problem with ambition. There's no problem with raising high and lofty goals and setting your sights on what the future holds. The problem isn't ambition. Ambition matters, growth matters, excellence matters. The danger is when we don't allow ourselves and our teams to actually stand on the summit long enough to understand what it actually took to get there. And here's what happens. Over time, the team starts to absorb a dangerous message, a message that nothing is ever enough. Win today, repeat tomorrow, prove yourself next week. And that pressure, it just slowly turns achievement into exhaustion. Now, great leaders, they know how to pause at the summit. Not forever, but long enough to ask the right questions. And some of these key questions at the summit that you need to ask what worked? You need to ask what changed for us in the process? You need to ask, what did this require of us? And you need to ask, what do we need to take the time to celebrate before we move forward? Because reflection doesn't slow momentum. Reflection actually protects momentum. Again, reflection doesn't slow momentum. Reflection actually protects momentum. And that's why we ask, what worked, what changed, what did it require, and what do we need to celebrate? So maybe the best leadership question after success is not, can we do it again? It's maybe not the best question. And before you start the next climb, how can you honor the summit you just earned? How can you celebrate it? How can you learn from it? How can you let it shape the next climb? So before you ask your team what's next this week, spend some time talking about just how far you've actually come.